So in this movie, we're going to talk about headers and footers. And we're going to do that by using the page layout view because that's the best place to work with headers and footers. We'll see that we have a standard list of header and footer options that we can pick from. We can type some content into the header or the footer. We can use some custom headers and footers. And we're going to see that we have all the options for formatting that we have on the Home tab when it comes to formatting the content of the headers and footers. So I've got a blank workbook, and we're going to talk about headers and footers by going to the page layout view. There's two ways to do it, and if you've seen the prior movies, you already know where I'm going to go. We can go to the View tab, where we in the Workbook Views group have the option to choose the normal view, which is the default view that we're currently on, the page break preview or the page layout view, or we can go down to the status bar and left-click Page Layout. Some of the reasons that you may want to add a header or footer to your printed worksheet might be because you want to include the title of the document or include an author for the document. You might want to timestamp the document because it may be time-sensitive information. You might want to put a network path on the document so that somebody with a hard copy can go to the computer and find it on your shared network drive. You might want to put a security indication as to whether it's confidential or not. You could put a company logo by inserting a picture. In the next movie, we're going to do that. So there's all kinds of reasons why you might want to add a header and footer to your worksheet when you print it out. And as general information, it doesn't matter which page you enter the header and footer information on. It'll be on every single printed page in your print job. But we're going to work off the first page just because it's there. So it doesn't take a genius to figure out what you need to do to add a header, because on the top of every single page it says click to add header. But there's actually three zones. There's a left zone, there's a center zone, and there's a right zone. Depending upon where you click is going to be where you're going to be adding the header to. So I'm going to click the center. When I do that, a couple things happen. One, the cursor's now blinking, so I could type content into this area and create a header. The second thing is that we got the Header and Footer Tools Design tab, which is the contextually driven tab for us to build our header and footer with. So I'm going to go to the Header and Footer group and left-click Header. And we get a drop-down of some header presets. The first one is None, which you can use to clear a header that you've previously created. We don't have one yet, obviously. And below that is a list of 17 different options that we can select from. Now, depending upon the option you select, is going to then determine whether the box that we currently have selected, the center box, is filled, or whether more than one of the boxes is filled. When there's only one data point, like page 1, for instance, the center box will be filled. Clicking again to get the Design tab, the drop down for the header choices. When there's a comma between two items, you're going to get more than one box filled. And when you have three items, so you have two commas, all three of those boxes will have some content. So we have content in these boxes. I can double click and get Excel into the edit mode and add to the content. In fact, I could have put the content and typed it in there myself directly without using those presets. I'm going to enter down to create another row. Enter down to create another row. When I click off of that, the content in the header is now larger than the header will support. So we can actually make the header larger by dragging that header margin down. I'm not suggesting that anybody should be threatening somebody else with their job as part of the header of their print job on their worksheet. I just needed to put another line of content in there. So the footer works the same way. I'm going to get the Design tab again. We can go to the footer by left-clicking in this navigation group, go to Footer. And we have some presets for the footer as well. We can select from the presets. We can directly type content in to create the content for the footer. We can do a combination of those things. I'm going to go back to the header. So I'm going to go back to the drop-down for the header and select None to clear our header that we created. Select Click to Add Header back to the Design Contextual tab. And we're going to work out of the header and footer elements group to create a custom header. These elements provide a way to build your own header. We can put, for instance, the sheet name in the center. I can click the right side and put the current date, enter to put the current time on another line. Over on the left side, I can input the file path and the file, enter, followed by the sheet name. So we can do the same thing on the footer because we have the same header and footer elements options to build a custom footer with. I'm going to go back up to the header and point out that these headers and footers are shown when we're in the page layout view. But if we go back to the normal view, the header and footer are not displayed. That's obviously so that you don't clutter up your workspace with unnecessary header and footer content. And if you want to work with the headers and footers, you can go to the page layout view and do just that. Once we have content in the cells, the header and footer, we can go to the Home tab and format that content using any of the formatting options that we have available to us. And you noticed I had to click back into the worksheet after making the changes, the formatting changes, to see those changes. Sheet 1. So that's headers and footers, an introduction to headers and footers. We looked at headers and footers using the page layout view because that's the best place to do it. We looked at the standard list of options that we have to set up a header and a footer. We can also just type content in to create a header or a footer. We can build a custom header or footer using the command options that we have in the header and footer elements group. And we can format our header and footer using any of the formatting options we find on the Home tab.